4 dangerous morning mistakes people over 70 make, and how to avoid them. Have you ever woken up feeling off? Like your body isn't quite ready to move, your mind is still in a fog, or something just isn't right? As we get older, mornings start to feel different. But what if I told you that small, seemingly harmless habits in your morning routine might be putting your health at risk, affecting your heart, circulation, balance, and even brain function? The truth is, most people over 70 make at least one of these 4 dangerous morning mistakes without even realizing it. The good news? They're easy to fix once you know what they are. But here's where it gets serious. The final mistake we'll cover is almost never talked about, yet it can drastically increase your risk of dizziness, falls, and even life-threatening complications. It's something you might be doing right now without a second thought. So before you take your first step out of bed, before you reach for that first sip of coffee, stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll have simple, powerful ways to protect your body, feel better in the mornings, and set yourself up for years of active, independent living. Let's get started, and if you're here with me, let me know by commenting 1 below. Mistake 1. Getting out of bed too quickly. Mark Twain once said, "Age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter." A fine sentiment, but I've learned the hard way that the body always minds, even when the spirit refuses to acknowledge it. We like to think we're the same person we were decades ago, that we can move as swiftly, as confidently, as effortlessly. But time has a way of teaching us otherwise. Sometimes it teaches gently. Other times, like in my friend Edward's case, it forces us to learn the hard way. Edward was 74, the kind of man who never wasted a minute of his day. A military man in his youth, he had lived by routine, discipline, and an unshakable belief that slowing down was a sign of weakness. He rose every morning at 6 a.m. sharp, swung his legs over the side of the bed, and stood up in one swift motion, just as he had for decades. It had never been a problem, not once, until one morning it was. He didn't see it coming. The moment he stood, a wave of dizziness hit him like a sudden gust of wind. His vision darkened, his legs wobbled, and before he could even reach for the nightstand, his body gave way. The floor rushed toward him, and then nothing. He didn't remember the fall itself, only the moment after. Lying there, heart pounding, his head spinning, a strange fear creeps into his chest. He hadn't been hurt, luckily. He had collapsed backward onto the bed rather than forward onto the hard wooden floor. But the feeling lingered, a whisper of something he had never allowed himself to admit. "I'm not as steady as I used to be." That thought haunted him for days. He told no one, of course, not his son, not his neighbors, not even me, his oldest friend. Pride is a stubborn thing, especially for men of our generation. But he knew, and once you know, you can't unknow. A week later, we were sitting on his back porch, watching the birds pick at the feeder, when he finally brought it up. "Tell me something," he said, voice low, almost hesitant. "Have you ever felt different in the mornings?" I nodded. "Every morning," I said. He looked at me, surprised. I laughed. "Edward, do you think I just pop out of bed like I used to? No, my friend. I take my time. I stretch, I move my feet a little, and I sit up slowly, because if I don't, I'll end up just like you did the other morning." His eyes widened. "How did you—" I tapped my temple. "I've lived long enough to know when a man's had a scare." He chuckled, shaking his head. "So, that's the trick? Just moving slower?" "Not slower. Smarter." I told him what I had learned over the years, from my own experiences and from watching others. That our bodies change, whether we like it or not. That circulation slows when we sleep, blood pools in our legs, and standing up too fast can send it rushing away from the brain, leaving us dizzy and disoriented. That which once was second nature now requires a little more care, a little more patience. It's not about weakness, Edward. It's about giving yourself a fighting chance. The next morning he tried it. Instead of rushing to his feet, he wiggled his fingers and toes first, letting his body wake up before he moved. He took a few deep breaths, stretched his arms, and rolled his ankles. Then he eased onto his side, pushed himself up to a seated position, and let his feet rest on the floor. Only then did he stand, steadily, without the dizziness, without the panic. When I saw him later that week, he looked different, more at ease. He clapped a hand on my shoulder and said, "You were right. Doesn't take much, does it?" "No," I said, "just a little respect for, What time does to a man. So let me ask you, how do you rise in the morning? Do you throw yourself out of bed as if you're still 20? Or do you take a moment, breathe, and let your body catch up? Because here's the truth. A few extra seconds in the morning can be the difference between starting your day well and not starting it at all. If this lesson made sense to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had a moment like Edward? A time when your body reminded you that you need to move differently than you once did? Share your experience in the comments. I read every one of them, and I know others here will too. And if you're still with me, still listening, still learning, comment too below. Let me know you're here. Let's keep growing wiser together. Mistake 2. Skipping water in the morning. Benjamin Franklin once said, "When the well's dry, we know the worth of water." It's a simple truth, yet so many of us only realize it when it's too late. Water is the source of life, the very thing that keeps us moving, thinking, and breathing. And yet, in the rush of our daily routines, we often overlook it, thinking that our bodies will manage just fine without it. But the body remembers. It always does. I learned this lesson the hard way, and so did my old friend James. He was a man of routine, disciplined in his ways, always up at the crack of dawn, walking to his kitchen to brew his morning coffee before anything else. It was his ritual, the way he had started his day for as long as he could remember. That rich, dark cup of coffee felt like life itself, a companion in the quiet morning hours. He never thought twice about it. Until one morning, he stood up from his chair, and the world tilted. The dizziness came so fast he barely had time to catch himself. He gripped the edge of the counter, his breath short, his head pounding. It wasn't the first time, either. The headaches had started creeping in over the past year, the grogginess in the morning lasting longer, his body feeling stiff and slow. He chalked it up to age. That's what we all do at first, don't we? Blame time as if it were the enemy. But James was a smart man. He had always believed in listening to the signs, and this time he couldn't ignore them. At his next doctor's visit, he brought it up in passing, expecting to hear some complicated explanation about aging. But instead, the doctor said something so simple that it almost seemed laughable. "James, do you drink water in the morning?" James frowned. "I drink coffee." "Before the coffee?" "No, just coffee." The doctor sighed and leaned back in his chair. "You're dehydrated, my friend. Your body goes all night without water, and the first thing you give it is coffee, which pulls even more moisture out of you. Your blood is thicker in the morning, your circulation is slower, and without water your heart has to work twice as hard to get things moving. That dizziness, those headaches, that sluggish feeling, it's your body running on empty." James sat there, quiet. It had never occurred to him. He thought water was something you drank when you felt thirsty, not something you had to think about. He had lived over 7 decades without anyone ever telling him that the first thing you put into your body in the morning sets the tone for the entire day. The next morning, he did something different. Instead of reaching for the coffee pot, he reached for a glass of water. It felt odd at first, unnatural. The taste was plain, the habit unfamiliar, but he drank it, all of it, before he even touched his coffee. A week passed, then 2, then a month. The dizziness faded, the headaches grew less frequent. He found himself feeling more alert, more awake, without that heavy fog in his mind. His joints weren't as stiff when he got out of bed. The change was so small, so simple, but it made all the difference. One day, he told me about it while we sat on his porch, watching the sun dip below the trees. He chuckled, shaking his head. 76 years old, and I'm just now learning how to start my mornings right. Can you believe that? I could, because I had seen it happen too many times. We spend so much of our lives moving through habits, never stopping to question them, never wondering if the things we've always done are actually good for us. It's only when something goes wrong that we start paying attention. But wisdom isn't just about reacting to problems, it's about preventing them in the first place. I think about my grandmother sometimes, a strong Appalachian woman who believed in simple, unshakable truths. She would wake up every morning and drink a glass of water before she did anything else. I once asked her why, and she said, "Because the land drinks the morning dew, and the body must do the same." I didn't understand it then, but I do now. Water isn't just a drink, it's the fuel that keeps us alive. It keeps our blood flowing, our minds clear, and our hearts steady. And yet, so many of us neglect it, believing that our bodies will manage without it, until one day, they don't. Until one day we find ourselves gripping the kitchen counter, struggling to steady a world that suddenly won't stay still. So here's my question to you. When was the last time you thought about the way you start your day? When was the last time you paused and asked yourself if your habits are serving you or hurting you? Tomorrow morning, before you reach for the coffee, before you step into your day, reach for a glass of water instead. See how it makes you feel. See if it changes anything. And if it does, tell me about it. I want to know, because life is too precious, and our mornings are too important to spend them running on empty. And if you're still with me, still listening, still learning, comment 3 below. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're thinking about this. And let's keep learning together. Mistake 3. Drink coffee before eating anything. Mark Twain once said, "The secret of success in life is to eat what you like and let the food fight it out inside." A humorous thought, but one that doesn't quite hold up as we age. The truth is, the body isn't what it used to be. It needs care, balance, and wisdom, especially in the morning when we set the stage for the rest of the day. And yet, so many of us make the same mistake, reaching for that first cup of coffee on an empty stomach, not realizing the slow damage it's doing. I learned this lesson through my old friend Robert. He was the kind of man who believed in routine, a steady ship that sailed each day the same way. His morning ritual was sacred. Wake up, stretch, pour himself a cup of strong black coffee, and sit by the window watching the world come alive. It had been his habit for as long as he could remember, something comforting in its familiarity. He never questioned it. Until, of course, his body started questioning it for him. At first it was a small discomfort, an occasional burning sensation in his chest, a slight unease in his stomach. Nothing serious, nothing he couldn't brush off. But over time it became harder to ignore. The acid reflux got worse, creeping up his throat after every sip. His stomach felt raw, uneasy, like something was gnawing at it from the inside. Some mornings he found himself jittery, anxious for no reason at all, his hands unsteady as he reached for his paper. But still, he didn't stop. "It's just part of getting older," he told himself. "Nothing I can't handle." Then came the day he couldn't handle it. It was a quiet Tuesday morning. Robert had just finished his first cup when a sudden sharp pain struck his stomach, so intense it made him double over. A burning sensation climbed his chest. His hands gripping the table as he struggled to catch his breath, the nausea hit next, a wave so strong he felt lightheaded. He sat there, staring at his coffee, realizing that something had to change. At his next doctor's appointment, he finally mentioned it. The doctor listened, nodding knowingly, and then asked a simple question. "Robert, do you eat before your coffee?" Robert frowned. "No, I never have." "There's your problem," the doctor said. "You're pouring acid onto an empty stomach every morning. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire and wondering why it burns." The doctor explained it simply. When we wake up, our stomachs are empty, but they're already producing acid. Drinking coffee, especially black coffee, adds more acid to the mix, irritating the stomach lining and triggering reflux. On top of that, caffeine spikes cortisol, the stress hormone, which can make a person feel jittery, anxious, and even lightheaded. Over time, this habit could lead to ulcers, digestive issues, and chronic discomfort. "But I've been drinking coffee this way for years," Robert said, shaking his head. "And you got away with it," the doctor replied, "until you didn't." Robert left that appointment with one simple instruction: eat something first. A small piece of toast, a banana, a handful of nuts, something to coat his stomach before the coffee hit it. He didn't like the idea at first. He was a man of habit, and habits die hard. But the next morning, instead of reaching for his coffee first, he grabbed a banana. It felt strange, foreign, but he ate it. Then he made his coffee. Within days he noticed a difference. The burning sensation was less severe. The nausea faded. He felt more stable, more at ease, his hands no longer trembling after his morning cup. By the end of the month he could hardly believe how much better he felt. He hadn't given up coffee, he had simply learned to respect it. One day, over lunch, he looked at me and said, "You know, it's funny. All these years I thought coffee was waking me up. Turns out it was knocking me down first." I nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. We don't always notice the harm our habits cause, until they catch up to us. I remember something my father once told me. He was a man of few words, but when he spoke, you listened. He used to say, "Life teaches you two ways. Gently, if you listen early. Harshly, if you ignore it. Robert had learned the harsh way. But you don't have to. So let me ask you, how do you start your morning? Do you throw coffee into an empty stomach and hope for the best? Or do you take a moment to give your body what it needs before asking it to perform? Tomorrow morning, before you reach for that cup, try eating something first. See how it changes things. And if it does, let me know. I read every comment and I want to hear from you. Because the older we get, the wiser we should become. And wisdom, real wisdom, isn't just knowing what's wrong. It's doing what's right. If you're still with me, still listening, still learning, comment 4 below. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're thinking about this. And let's keep growing together. Mistake 4. Ignoring morning stiffness and moving too quickly. Benjamin Franklin once said, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." He was talking about fire safety at the time, but those words apply to just about everything in life, including how we treat our bodies as we age. The small things we ignore today often become the biggest regrets of tomorrow. I learned this lesson through my friend Walter. He was 78, still living in the same house he'd bought with his wife over 40 years ago. He was the kind of man who never let age slow him down, not in his mind at least. His body, however, had other plans. Mornings weren't as easy as they used to be. When he first woke up, he felt it, the stiffness in his knees, the ache in his lower back, the way his hands didn't quite close the way they once did. But Walter wasn't the kind of man to sit around complaining. He had always believed that the best way to shake off stiffness was to just get moving. So every morning he did exactly that. He'd swing his legs over the bed, push himself up, and start his day. Until the morning, he didn't. It happened so fast. One moment he was standing, the next the floor was rushing toward him. His knee had locked up, his balance had faltered, and before he knew it he was lying flat on the ground staring at the ceiling. The pain shot through his hip, sharp and unrelenting. He tried to get up, but his body wasn't cooperating. And for the first time in a long time, Walter felt something he hadn't allowed himself to acknowledge before. Fear. It wasn't just the fall that scared him, it was what it meant. He had seen it happen to others, friends who had taken a bad fall and never quite recovered. Some ended up needing walkers, others lost their independence entirely, and for the first time he realized that he wasn't invincible. He had spent so many years ignoring what his body was telling him, pushing through the pain, assuming he could still move the way he did in his younger days. But the body changes, and ignoring those changes doesn't make them go away. Recovery wasn't easy. Physical therapy was slow and frustrating, but it gave Walter something he had been missing, a new understanding of how to care for his body. The therapist taught him something so simple, yet so powerful. Preparation matters. The body, especially an aging one, isn't meant to go from stillness to movement in an instant. It needs time to adjust, time to wake up, a few small movements in the morning, wiggling the toes, stretching the arms, rotating the ankles. These things seemed insignificant, but they weren't. They were the difference between rising with ease and risking another fall. When he finally healed, Walter changed his routine. No more rushing out of bed. He took his time, he stretched, he moved gently, and he allowed his body to catch up before asking it to carry him through the day. And he never fell again. He told me about it one afternoon as we sat on his porch, watching the neighborhood kids race their bikes up and down the street. He shook his head, laughing to himself. "You know, if someone had told me this 10 years ago, I would have brushed it off," he admitted. Would have said, "I don't need to stretch. I'm fine." But fine doesn't last forever, does it? I nodded. I knew exactly what he meant. We spend so much of our lives taking our bodies for granted, assuming they will always work the way they used to. But nothing stays the same. Not our strength, not our balance, not the way we move. The only thing that remains is how we care for ourselves. So let me ask you this. When you wake up tomorrow morning, what will you do? Will you jump up, ignoring the stiffness, pretending you're still as quick as you were 30 years ago? Or will you pause, breathe, and give your body the care it needs? Because here's the truth. The time you take now, just a few moments each morning, could be the very thing that keeps you moving, keeps you steady, keeps you independent. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment like Walter? A moment when your body reminded you that it's not about how fast you move, but how well you prepare? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one of them, and I know others here will too. Let's learn from each other. And if you're still with me, still listening, still learning, comment 5 below. Let me know you're here. Let me know you understand, because these conversations matter. You matter. And the small things you do today, they'll shape the way you move tomorrow. As we wrap up, take a moment to reflect. What small change will you make tomorrow morning? Will you rise a little slower, sip a glass of water first, eat something before your coffee, or stretch before taking that first step? These habits may seem small, but over time, they shape the way you move, the way you feel, and the way you live. Your body has carried you through decades of life. It deserves care, patience, and respect. And the best part? These changes are simple. Just a few extra moments in the morning can mean years of strength, balance, and independence. If something in this video resonated with you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear. What's one thing you've learned that you'll start doing differently? Your wisdom and experiences matter, and they may just help someone else who's watching. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. These conversations don't end here. We're building a space where we can all grow stronger together. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.